issues. She can't afford to retire, can she, and see out her days in leisure. Is there still a chance that she could do a tell-all book, Fergie, My Story, and make millions?
I think there's every chance because her children's books have been stripped from the shelves. They're due to be out.
Sarah Ferguson didn't run out of titles. She ran out of credit, and the palace is done co-signing her chaos. In the next few minutes, you'll learn why her cash flow crisis is pushing her toward a scorched earth comeback, how leaked emails and a deprincing detonated the House of York, what a tell-all could expose about Andrew, Epstein, and the courtiers who looked the other way, where Beatrice and Eugenie fit in when the safety nets are cut, and the exact scenarios the palace is gaming out if Fergie cashes in with a book or documentary. Another day, another York emergency. Just when King Charles thought the storm had finally blown past, a new Fergie bomb threat starts ticking. Children's titles quietly disappear from shelves. Charity partners inch away. Emails crawl out of the past like ghosts, linking Sarah and Andrew to a name the monarchy never wants to hear again: Jeffrey Epstein. And then comes the sledgehammer. Andrew will no longer be known as a prince, and Royal Lodge isn't a forever home anymore. If royal privilege was a credit card, the issuer just cut it in half. Here's the unvarnished picture. Sarah Ferguson is staring down a financial cliff, a reputational minefield, and a once-in-a-lifetime payday if she decides to do the one thing the palace fears most: talk. Not cute, soft-focus talk. Not sanitized memoir talk. A modern, receipts-ready, lawyers-hovering tell-all. The kind that answers questions the crown prefers to bury in the archives, and you can practically hear the palace calculators clicking. Because insiders know exactly how this plays. The moment Fergie signs on the dotted line, the floodgates open. Every aide, every ex-friend, every fixer with a text thread smells opportunity. One book becomes two. Two becomes a docu-series. A docu-series becomes primetime specials, sit-downs, and a never-ending ecosystem of clips, leaks, and unpublished chapters. The institution can handle scandal. What it can't handle is a scandal with seasons. Let's rewind to how we got here. The York machine ran for years on a volatile cocktail: nostalgia for the fairy tale Duchess, a carefully managed proximity to the crown, and the public's willingness to forgive the lovable loose cannon who never quite stuck the landing. But that only works when you're harmless. Once leaked correspondence surfaced, apologies, associations, timelines that don't neatly align. The tone changed. Charities don't want the smoke. Publishers smell controversy, yes, but the palace smells exposure. And Andrew? Stripped of the style, the duties, and now the address he believed was a lifetime guarantee. There's a reason royal watchers are suddenly whispering about a fresh Ferguson autobiography. Not because she hasn't done them before, she has, but because this time the incentives are different. This isn't a redemption arc, it's a survival play. When the books are pulled, when the patrons cool, when the household bills arrive, and the lifestyle refuses to shrink, the options narrow. And nothing narrows them faster than losing your co-brand. For years, Sarah traded on the idea of being both the insider and the outsider. Inside enough to be relevant, outside enough to be real. If that line disappears, the only asset left is the unfiltered story. Royal commentators are already flashing the hazard lights. They'll tell you any inside book is harmful. But this isn't just inside. This is decades of private rooms. The calls after the headlines, the stop the presses meetings, the whispered strategy calls when a photo breaks the internet at 3 a.m. The palace mantra is simple: opacity is stability. A Fergie tell-all is the opposite. It's searchlights through blackout curtains. And what about the girls? When a father loses his public role and a mother's brand is radioactive, the daughters become collateral. Beatrice and Eugenie have spent years engineering quiet, careful lives, jobs, families, a rhythm away from the main stage. A Fergie book drags them right back into the blare. Every chapter becomes a question at a school gate, a boardroom, a charity gala. The palace hates that almost more than the headlines because it interrupts the narrative they're building. Slim down, duty first, no drama monarchy. The Yorks are the one branch that keeps reopening old wounds. Let's talk Royal Lodge. It's not just a house. It's a symbol. Walls soaked in status. Grounds that say untouchable. For Andrew, being told to pack up isn't logistics. It's an identity crisis. Reports of delays, renovations, negotiations. Those aren't about plumbing. They're about time. Time to find leverage. Time to find a parachute. Time to pretend the chapter hasn't ended. But the clock is loud now. Once that gate closes, the last visible piece of his old world is gone. That's why the eviction matters more than the title. Titles can be massaged in language. Keys cannot. And then there's the Epstein stink, the one storyline no amount of royal starch can fully press out. Sarah's past description of him as a steadfast friend later walked back, blamed on legal threats, spun as a catastrophic lapse of judgment. Keeps boomeranging. Every new email, every fresh snippet, every timeline quibble drags the York brand deeper into the quicksand. The institution wants distance. The public wants answers. Fergie wants income. Those three forces are moving in three different directions. What does a tell-all look like in 2025? Not the 90s version, glossy plates, and polite euphemisms. Picture this. Chapter-by-chapter receipts, timestamps, unredacted schedules, legal vetting so aggressive the footnotes become part of the show. A companion podcast. TV tie-ins. Clips engineered for TikTok. A Netflix-ready arc. Girl meets prince, girl meets press, girl meets gravity. Girl chooses confession. It's brutal. It's bankable. And yes, it's believable enough to hurt. Even if half of it is caveat to oblivion, the palace response, should it drop, will be familiar. Dignified silence, a brief line about private matters, and a surge of positive coverage elsewhere to smother the oxygen. But they know silence doesn't work like it used to. In the algorithm era, silence is just SEO space someone else fills. Now, zoom in on Sarah's headspace. Publicly, the happiest divorced couple in the world line played for years. Privately, loyalty has limits when loyalty scorches your own prospects. Reports hint she's finished being dragged by Andrew's gravity well, emotionally, financially, professionally. That's not cruelty. That's calculus. When a brand becomes uninsurable, you stop underwriting it. And if a publisher dangles mid-seven figures for a first-person pivot, principles get tested. Will she leave Britain? Don't underestimate the appeal. Europe offers discretion. The Middle East offers connections. Both offer distance. Reinvention likes a new time zone. And if she does relocate, that's a message. She's choosing oxygen over obligation. The crown loses the implied leverage of proximity. A phone call from the palace private secretary lands differently when you're 3 hours ahead and filming a sit-down in Dubai. Where does this land? 3 endgames sit on the table. 1. Containment. Quiet deals, soft landings, a carefully managed rebrand as the tough-as-nails survivor who learned, healed, and writes children's books again once the heat cools. Low drama, lower income, maximum dignity. The palace prefers this. The market doesn't point to controlled detonation. A single, meticulously lawyered memoir with just enough headline juice to sell big, but not enough to burn bridges beyond repair. Names are hinted, not spelled. Timelines are suggestive, not surgical. She banks the check, does a restrained media lap, and retreats. Risky, but survivable for everyone. Point 3. Full broadcast. Book plus doc plus sit-downs, full narrative sovereignty, receipts on the table, and a no-way-back relationship with the institution. This pays the most and costs the most. It's also the version the internet wants and the palace fears. Where do Beatrice and Eugenie fit if the third door opens? They keep their heads down and their schedules full. Work, family, charity, with an ironclad rule: zero commentary. Any quote becomes weaponized. Any appearance becomes a referendum. Their best defense is repetition: show up, do the job, say nothing, go home. It's boring. It's also how you outlast scandal you didn't cause. And Andrew? The spare, looks suddenly spare in every sense. No title, no frontline role, soon no lodge. He can posture, he can delay, he can insist the world misunderstood him. But the reality is simple. He's on borrowed royal time. The legal rumblings won't stop just because the palace has. If more documents surface, if private prosecutions proceed, if financial trails harden, the conversation moves out of royal coverage and into the justice pages. That's a different level of cold. Here's the brutal truth the monarchy already knows. This is not about one duchess with money problems. It's about narrative control. For years, the Windsors have tried to make the story small, local, personal, family challenges.